So many things have ruined my childhood, so I go online to bitch and cry. It feels like all of Hollywood is up against me. They even made Optimus fly. New versions of what I grew up with are being remade, rebooted and retried. My adolescence is under attack now. I think that a part of me has died. Aliens, Predators, Marvel, DC, maybe it doesn't all quite stick.
Okay, well, except maybe for that Jar Jar Binks.
Could it be I've misunderstood? This podcast ruined my childhood.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Podcast Ruined My Childhood. I'm Phil Durasmo, and with me, as always, is Eric Walensky. Eric?
Hey, folks. How's everybody doing?
I am positive they're doing great, and they're going to be even happier to know that we have a special guest with us. He and I have circled each other in podcast world for a little over a year now, but we've never actually been on the same podcast together. So I'm very excited that he has joined our podcast, Mr. Brad Jost.
Hey, what's going on? I'm finally excited to get to podcast with you and talk about Jurassic Park on something other than my show. I'm excited.
Yeah, very exciting. 65 million years in the making, this podcast might be.
But see, Phil, we were so preoccupied with whether or not we could have a podcast, we never stopped to think if we should.
That is the legendary words of Dr. Ian Malcolm coming straight through, Eric. Yes. That is right, everybody. We are going to be talking about Jurassic Park 1, 2, and 3 on this week's This Podcast Ruined My Childhood. Gentlemen, let's take a second and remember what it felt like coming out of the theater in 1993. Brad, since you're our special guest this week, why don't you tell us your memories of 1993 and seeing this movie for the first time?
Well, might be a huge letdown for everybody out there, but I don't remember it. I unfortunately do not remember the first time I saw it. And it's, honestly, it is so frustrating to me to be doing what I'm doing and talking about Jurassic Park each and every week, and then to not have that first memory of seeing the movie. I do have a later memory of like one of the first times I did see it in theaters. And it was like a few years later, a local movie theater, I think it was Lowe's, I guess, opened up for the first time in my town. And they were doing just throwing all kinds of awesome movies into theaters for like really cheap. And I remember going to see it there for the first time in theaters, but I had seen it previously in theaters. I just have no recollection of doing it because I was like 7 years old, I guess. So the memories are fleeting from back then.
Wow.
Eric, what are your memories?
Well, I was going to say, that's interesting because I've actually never seen Jurassic Park, and I'm just excited to hear about this movie.
Nice.
It's pretty good.
I can forgive you now. You said you're 7 years old. I'm like, how can you not remember?
Yeah.
But yeah, being 7, I can understand how that would maybe slip by. But for me, I would have been, I'm actually 10 years older. I would have been 17 at the time. And it came out in June. School was out. And me and my buddy went to the kind of like how you had the second run movies in your town, Brad. We had the two major theaters, and then there was this other one. They didn't do they would do second run, but they would also get freshly released films, and they happened to get Jurassic Park. So we went to that theater. There was no crowd that day. It was just me and my friend, a scant number of people, because everybody else went to the other theaters. And my goodness, this is my Star Wars. The way kids who were like teenagers in the 70s went and saw Star Wars and were completely blown away, and they'll talk about how they'd never seen anything like it. that's what Jurassic Park is for me. It's my Star Wars, and I love Star Wars. But again, I was younger too when they came out. I wasn't a teenager, obviously then. But man, I will never forget just being in there and seeing the T-Rex for the first time. And my friend and I, we were just staring at each other when we walked out of there. Like, we couldn't even talk. We were just like, this is the most incredible movie I've ever seen in my life. And I still feel that way. Every time Jurassic Park is on TV, I have to watch the movie. I mean, at least for a few minutes, I have to just watch that. It is so awesome. It's just, blew me away.
I feel the same way. So my birthday is in May, late May, and I was a huge dinosaur kid. Growing up, I wanted to play with dinosaurs all the time. I used to want to be a paleontologist. And so when Jurassic Park, the book, came out, I was probably, 10 or so, 9. And I read Jurassic Park. I didn't understand more than half of the book. Obviously, I didn't understand most of it, but I just loved it. I thought it was so cool to think about someone engineering dinosaurs and bringing them back, because I was so enamored with dinosaurs at that young age. And when I heard that this movie was coming out, I just couldn't believe it. So when I was turning 12, I turned 12 in 1993, I had a sleepover in June. So I delayed my birthday party for 2 weeks so that my friends could come sleep over, stay the night on a Friday night. And then Saturday, my parents and another friend's parents drove all of us kids to the movie theater, and we saw a matinee of Jurassic Park. And same as you, Eric, when I saw the first brachiosaur, and when Alan Grant takes the sunglasses off his face and turns Ellie Sattler's head, and you see that brachiosaur there, my jaw dropped, and my jaw stayed down for the rest of the film. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I couldn't believe the technology that was being used. I was immersed in this world. Dinosaurs were real for those 2 hours and 4 minutes, or 2 hours and 7 minutes, excuse me. I just was blown away, and it became my favorite movie. It surpassed Empire Strikes Back as my favorite movie up to that point in my life. And still to this day, same as you, Eric, if it is on TV, I'm watching from that scene on. And when I see the scene where Grant, Sattler, Malcolm, where they all see the brachiosaur for the first time, I still get chills. When I watched this the other day to prepare for today, I got chills. When Hammond says, "We clocked the T-Rex at 35 miles an hour," I still giggle like a 12-year-old boy. And I can't say enough about this film, and I love every minute of it, and I don't think there's anything that I would change in Jurassic Park. It is one of those near perfect films that the sequels always tried to live up to, but could never even get close.
I think it's a rare instance where the film surpasses the book, actually, too. Usually the book has a little bit more detail, a little more gravity, and sometimes the film adaptation just doesn't pull it off. But I think Jurassic Park way surpassed the book for me, because I didn't read the books until years later. And when I read it, and I'm like, Hammond's a jerk, and there's volcanoes, and he had to go into caves. This is terrible. Like, the first half is good because it's largely the book, or it's largely what they did in the film. But then the ending, I'm like, ooh, I wouldn't have liked that. I'm glad Spielberg changed this.
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of, I mentioned not being able to see the movie, or not remembering seeing the movie, but I do remember my mom reading the novel out on the front porch of our house and telling me, I would walk up to her and be like, "What is this book that you're reading? It has a dinosaur on it. What is it?" And she, told me about these terrifying situations with raptors and stuff. And this is probably more so around 1991 or whenever the book came out. So I remember these moments and just being kind of enamored by how scary it sounded. And yeah, I was a huge dinosaur fan at that time too. And the novel, when you're talking about that, it's such a different tale, the way that story is told. It's just so different. The vibe is completely different. It's the movie is so bright and happy most of the time. I mean, there's a lot of terrifying situations, but it's just so, just bright and happy, but the novel it always seems dark and oppressive. So I think it's just two vastly different styles. And I know a lot of people are always interested in seeing the book actually come to life in something like an HBO series or something like Westworld would, so it's just so different, but they're great in their own rights. But I definitely agree that the movie is better to me than the novel.
I agree with that.
The book is good. I did like the book, but yes, I felt like I was watching like an Elseworlds version or reading an Elseworlds version of Jurassic Park. And in that respect, I feel like I even get a little more Jurassic Park because I get a whole other different story than has been presented in the films.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And luckily, it's been mined throughout the years. I mean, they're literally still doing it, to this day, just pulling stuff from that first novel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something fun about the production of the movie, getting into the filmmaking in general, is that, did you all know that? I mean, I'm sure, Brad, you knew this being a theme park guy, but Spielberg got inspiration for the dinosaurs, the way that they would articulate and move from riding Kong Funtation at Universal Studios in Florida.
Yes.
I didn't know that until just a couple days ago, and I think that is one of the coolest facts. Disney Imagineer and Disney legend Bob Gurr designed Kong for Universal back when he worked for them. And Spielberg went on the ride and said, we need our dinosaurs to move like this when we make Jurassic Park. And so he then wanted to build every single dinosaur, and it was just too expensive to do. So anytime there's a close-up shot of a dinosaur in the movie, it's live action. And anytime that there's a full shot of the dinosaur, it's CGI, which I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, Spielberg was adamant because all the dinosaurs in the Jurassic Park movies are animatronic or CGI. He was adamant that he did not want to use real dinosaurs at all.
Too dangerous, right? He just couldn't get the insurance for it.
No, actually, see that? No kidding. That is what people get wrong about this. It's in one of the DVD extras. He's quoted. It's not about the temperament of the animals, he said. It's and that's what everyone assumes. It's just that the leather hides of the dinosaurs didn't pop on film. It was more of a visual element. There's a more flexibility with CGI and animatronics. So it is not about the insurance. It's about the visual.
My goodness.
Yeah, they actually attempted the real dinosaur. They tried it with the Triceratops, but Steven didn't like the way it looked, like you're saying, and he ended up just shooting it. And then he took that picture right in front of the dead trike, and people still reprimand him to this day.
Wow, it's amazing he was able to still make films.
Yeah, I'm shocked.
There was talk. I'm glad you know this, Brad. See, I'm not crazy, Phil. There was talk of using a real Triceratops in Jurassic World as a nod to that scene, and then they just went with the hologram of a Dilophosaur.
Oh, wow. I'm just learning so much today.
Yeah.
So the movie came out. It did so well. It had the highest opening weekend of any film and held that title until 2001. From 1993 until 2001, it was the highest grossing opening weekend for a film. And Spielberg, I'm sure, was very proud of it, even though he had a lot of headaches while making it.
So Spielberg did have some headaches because he was actually, they finished filming 12 days ahead of schedule. He had to go off to take care of Schindler's List because he was filming them both together. The studio gave him the green light for Schindler's List, but they said you have to make the dinosaur movie too, as they called it. So he was doing both. And after he left production to go to Schindler's List, he did say in an article where he's filming this very heavy film about the Holocaust, and then during the day, and then at night he's going back to his hotel room and then having to approve CGI dinosaur shots. And he said it was a real jarringly strange experience to go from such a heavy personal film to, yep, that cartoon dinosaur looks great. So just an interesting, what filmmakers kind of, the worlds they have to shift through.
Yeah. Yeah. And surprisingly, what's his name? George Lucas was actually helping out during that period of time on Jurassic Park too.
Yes. Yep. He gets a special thanks in the credits. Great to have
Yeah.
a friend like that, right?
Especially when his company's doing all your CGI
Yeah.
and sound too, right? Didn't Skywalker Sound do the sound for it?
Yeah, I believe so.
So moving on, 4 years pass, and we get The Lost World: Jurassic Park. Now, the movie was titled the same as the book, and there was a lot of question about whether or not they should keep it that way because of Arthur Conan Doyle's Lost World movie. But they decided to keep it as The Lost World and just put Jurassic Park in the title to make sure that audiences knew what they were getting. But The Lost World, much like the book, takes them to Site B, but that's about all that's the same between the book and the film, aside from Ian Malcolm being the main character.
Mm-hmm.
What do you both remember from seeing The Lost World?
Well, again, I've got a very vivid memory of this one as well. And I was up north, little northern town on Lake Huron. And if you know anything about Michigan, when you go up north for the weekend and it rains, there's nothing to do because all there is to do in these nice northern towns is go to the beach and have outdoor fun. So it starts raining, and where does everybody go? To the little 2-screen theater in the little 1-street downtown strip. And I was 20 years old at the time, and it was me, my girlfriend, her brother, her dad, and about 200 12 to 14-year-olds. And my goodness, that scene where the Raptors go tearing through the field and grab that whole crew that's running through there, you couldn't even hear yourself think. The screams and the laughter and the oh my gosh, the shrieks. It was insane. And again, that's just another reason that Jurassic Park, even as a franchise, just I have so many good memories tied to seeing these movies in the theater. But yeah, I loved it.
Well, put in that like womp womp noise because guess what, guys? I don't remember seeing this one either.
Well, you're 11 now, right? You're 11.
Yeah. I was 11, so
still a little young, maybe.
A little young, and look, I mean, honestly, I don't remember what I did yesterday, so it's tough. But this movie hit me at the right time, like in that 11, 12, like that range is perfect, I think, for Jurassic. And like I do have a lot of memory of just watching this movie on VHS and just how awesome that experience is by itself, because the movie starts off in such like a hazy manner. It's dark. It opens up from a fade in from black, and it's just so foggy and hazy. And the movie's darker in general. And just seeing that on VHS with all the it's not very crisp of an experience, but it just adds to that. And I remember sitting there in front of a small TV watching this movie over and over on VHS, and man, it was awesome. And unfortunately, I just don't remember seeing this one either. But it's such a bummer to me because, like I said, this one hit me at the right time. So in many instances, I consider this to be my favorite movie over the first one even. So it's crazy. At times, yeah. I think I can argue pretty well for both of them.
Yeah, that's interesting. So same thing for me. I same as Eric, I should say. I saw it in my local theater. I don't even know how many seats were in it, but it's a pretty small theater, maybe 100, maybe 95. It was just a fun experience. That scene with the Raptors, just every single time, still just like with the first movie, chills in that sequence with the Raptors. But there was a lot that when I left the theater, and mind you, at this point in 1997, I'm 16, and my cognitive abilities are a little bit stronger than when I was 12. And so when I read The Lost World, the book, I liked that book better than I liked Jurassic Park book. And so I had really high hopes for the film because I thought the book was better than the original. And so I went to see it in the theater, and it's not so much of a departure that it's shocking, but it's enough of a departure that the things that they changed, I don't understand why they changed them. And it really sat in a weird place with me for a long time. I don't love The Lost World. I really like The Lost World, but I don't love it. And I think it's because of that first impression I had when I left the theater. and I loved the book so much. And I just, Eric, you said it before, Jurassic Park was a better movie than book, and The Lost World was a better book than movie. And I couldn't reconcile that at 16 years old. I couldn't make it make sense in my head. And so I always kind of have this little bit of resentment for The Lost World because it didn't do what Jurassic Park did from a film standpoint, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I see that. See, I didn't read either book until after I saw Jurassic Park 3, because that was finally the point where I was like, okay, third movie, now I got to get around to reading the source material on this stuff. So I didn't have any notions about the books when I saw the movies. I will say, though, The Lost World, while I loved it in the theater, and the two T-Rexes tearing up the trailer and all of that, and then the Raptors, and just overall just a fun, good movie. I find now it takes a little while to get there. There's a lot of talking before you really get going. Watching Jeff Goldblum talk to the lawyers having their meeting, talking to Hammond, and there's some good lines in there, of course. I love the we learned our lessons. We're not gonna make the same mistakes. No, you're gonna make all new mistakes. Yeah, I love that. But in since that initial impression, I've seen the movie a couple times, and I just rewatched it maybe 2 months ago, and I was really floored by like how long it takes them to get to the island. I'd kind of forgotten that there was so much talking, and I wasn't really impressed with that.
Yeah. One of the things that I just really, really dislike is the San Diego sequence. I can't get around that part of the movie. I used to, and I don't do this anymore because I can just deal with it nowadays when I'm watching a film, but I used to turn off my DVD or VHS or whatever it was when they left the island, and I wouldn't watch any of the San Diego sequence.
Oh, man. Oh, that hurts me so much.
Really?
I love that. I love that moment. It's so funny because you both bring up moments that I love so much. And I mean, like I said before, this movie could, be one of my favorites of all time. So I really appreciate those slow moments in the beginning. And some of my favorite lines and things come from those moments. And like you were talking about the moment where Ian is talking with Hammond in the house. And I love that so much. I love all the conversation. I love like the garage sequence. It's like a toy room when they're in that garage, and you have the RV, the camper there. You have all these amazing trucks. The High is in there, and there's sparks flying, people working on stuff. It's amazing. And I love the San Diego stuff too. It's so different and so fun, and so funny. Like I just love the comedy in that movie. Yeah.
And that's where I think I might have a problem with it, is that it felt like it was trying too hard, especially when they were on the mainland. Everything was either a joke, like with the doghouse, or too serious with the guy getting eaten by the baby T-Rex. I mean, it all was just, I don't know. It just doesn't work as well for me.
So here's a question for you, Brad. I didn't personally notice this myself, and I read this in a Jurassic Park article because I'm a sucker for Jurassic Park. Anything comes up, I've said it before. Like after the third movie came out, and people, were like, that was all right, and it wasn't as good. And then Jurassic World came out, and people had complaints. And then the next, man, you keep making dinosaur movies, I am going to keep showing up for them. Just I read anything and everything about this stuff. But so here's I guess it's be a mistake. I don't know exactly what you'd classify this as, plot hole. But when the ship is crashed into the dock and they start exploring to find it out, and they pick up the severed hand that was on the button, the dinosaurs are in the hold of the ship, but yet there's a so did the hand get severed and he pushed the button and the dinosaur ran real quick and got in the hole? So I'm like, how did that happen? That does not make sense.
It's not even just that. Another part of that whole scene is they go up and they go into the control room for the boat, and there's the severed hand on the wheel. But how's the T-Rex going to fit in there? the T-Rex is going to knock the whole control room or the whatever that's called, the room apart. So
answer the question, Brad. Answer the question.
This is kind of a difficult one to answer. There is no answer specifically. It's just
movie magic.
It's just one of those mistakes. And yeah, I mean, that ending it was completely different than intended. And there was whole things where they were going to go over cliffs. It was almost going to be like motorcycle chases and quad and stuff like that, go over cliffs with hang gliders and all this stuff. And I think at one point, maybe even Raptors were supposed to be on that ship. So it's probably like a lingering idea from something like that, but it is weird. And it makes no sense why it's there. I have no clue how they just were like, yeah, let's just keep that in there.
Yeah.
I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. And it's just one of those things you just kind of have to look away from, I guess, and just laugh at. But yeah. It doesn't ruin anything for me.
I probably saw the movie 4 or 5 times, and that never occurred to me. It just is like I'm watching it, because I guess the mainland part to me is the part that takes me out of it a little bit. I like the mystique of the dinosaur islands. So when you came to the mainland, that took me out of it a little bit. So I guess that's why I just never really paid attention to the details, because I'm like, oh, well, here's the mainland part. It's okay. And then it wasn't until I read that article, I was like, yeah, how did the dinosaur do that?
Yeah, I think about it every single time I watch it.
Yeah, it's not like the baby was on there or anything.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I love the sequence just because of these like homages to like stuff like King Kong and Godzilla. Yep. And it's that typical monster, just giant monster movie at the end where it's attacking the city. It's so much fun to me. And even the boat is named the SS Venture, and that's like the same boat name from King Kong.
Yep, so I have that on my notes to talk about. And that's fun to bring that up.
It's awesome. Like I love those little homages and it's so much fun. And honestly, like that shot of the T-Rex against the city of San Diego, like that is incredible.
Yeah,
and
that is pretty cool.
There are pretty awesome moments as far as like animatronics and CG goes, there when the T-Rex is at the gas station.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm just laughing at all these comical moments in my head of like the ball rolling by and just Ian Malcolm's face as it rolls by. It's stuff like that just kills me.
It's truly, it feels like they were definitely going for the cheese factor, and they knew that they were doing it,
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're right. It was very much an homage to King Kong. That's Steven Spielberg's favorite movie growing up, was King Kong from the 30s. So he put in a couple homages to it. In both Jurassic Park and Jurassic Park 2. Did you all know, and another fun fact about filming, some of the scenes that they shot were in the Redwood Forest at the same location that was used as Endor in Return of the Jedi?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It creates this identity for, this second island, Isla Sorna. It creates a completely different vibe. And yes, that vibe is trashed in the next movie, but I love the redwoods and just that style. And it's interesting, like now we're seeing a show called Camp Cretaceous come along, and it's actually kind of using a lot of that similar vibe, but for Isla Nublar, and I'm very confused, but that's a whole different kind of conversation. But I love that vibe versus the jungle of Isla Nublar, the first island. So it creates this distinct difference, and I really love that.
Yep, I agree. One of the best scenes in the film, in my opinion, is the T-Rex, the 2 T-Rexes coming at the trailers. Mm-hmm. I just love the suspense. I love how long that scene is, how long the sequence takes from when they first get the baby back and let it out to then getting up off the top of the cliff. It is a very long sequence, and it's just heart pounding the entire time. Yeah. And that was done in the redwoods. So the surrounding scenes of the T-Rexes coming out of the forest was done in the redwoods, and then that actual sequence of them going over the cliff was shot off the roof of a soundstage in Hollywood.
I've actually been to where they filmed, like legitimately where they filmed Return of the Jedi in the Redwood Forest. We were at the national park there, and as we're driving in, there's a road that actually says Skywalker Road. And as soon as I saw it, I turned to my wife. I said, "Hey, that's where they they had to have filmed Star Wars down there. And she looks at me and says, Eric, the world doesn't revolve around Star Wars. I'm sure that's just a road. So we get down to the ranger station, the main entrance, and we go in, and she's telling us, oh, well, if you're going to camp, go here. If you're going to do this, go there. And I said, one last question. I said, as we're driving in, I saw Skywalker Road. Is that where they filmed Star Wars down there? And she kind of sighs and says, yeah. And I turned to my wife and said, I knew it. And then they exchange a glance of like, oh boy, you're one of those. Okay.
And you are one of those, and you're proud of it. So.
And I am, yeah. And we went back later that day. We went down. You can drive, I don't know, it was maybe a mile down that road. And then it just kind of dead ends in a clearing. So, but that is what she said. She goes, forever ago, she said, of course, you're not going to see anything. I couldn't recognize locations or anything, but I was just happy to be where they made Return of the Jedi. I thought that was neat.
That's the best part about traveling. Imagine traveling to, I've never gone there, but Hawaii, and like, you have to visit so many places. You have to go to like where they filmed Jurassic Park. You got to go where they film Indiana Jones. Maybe if you want to see some Pirates of the Caribbean or Lost, it's like there's too many places to see.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny you bring it up because I have been to Hawaii and I've taken one of those helicopter tours where it flies you on the route that they take in the first Jurassic Park movie, and you see the waterfall and everything.
That's awesome.
So I have some pictures of that, and I treasure those photos.
Yeah, one day.
Most of that was like Kauai, right?
There's a big, like, huge open area in Kauai on the southern part that's basically just private property.
Yeah, it's like Kulua Ranch.
Yep, and you can take helicopter tours flying over it. You can also pay a lot more and do excursions on the ground, but we didn't pay for that.
Yeah, they have like a log that kind of like stands for the original log. It's like, hey, this is where they filmed that shot with the T-Rex and the Gallimimus out in the fields and stuff. Yeah, one day I'll do that.
Cool.
It was very cool seeing the waterfall.
You mentioned Indiana Jones. My friend has been there, and you can do the rope swing that Indy does at the beginning of Raiders. You can swing into the river there.
Oh, that's amazing.
All right, so a couple years go by, 4 more years go by. Steven Spielberg says, I'm not coming back to direct another Jurassic Park movie. So he turns the reins over to a protege of his, Joe Johnston. Now, Joe Johnston is known for his first big film was actually his directorial debut of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which for that to be a directorial debut is pretty amazing in 1989.
Yeah. And
then he went on to one of my favorite films that is completely underrated and underappreciated, The Rocketeer, in 91.
It's amazing.
I'm glad you say so. I think that it's one of the best movies of the 90s.
Oh, for sure.
And, he went on to do Jumanji and had wanted to direct The Lost World, but Steven Spielberg was coming back and told him, you can have the next one. And so Joe Johnston, with executive producer Steven Spielberg, made Jurassic Park 3 in 2001. Now, this movie, I was definitely old enough to understand that there were some liberties being taken as far as the books and as far as the film's concerned, because it is like you said, Brad, it's a departure from what we knew from the movie before on the same island. And they really just made this, in my opinion, as a cash grab. It was a way to make some more money off of a property that everybody loves. And, Steven Spielberg didn't come back to actually direct it. You got some of the same stars, or really one star from the first movie. And nothing really looks the same, and it doesn't have the same DNA as the other two.
Good one.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I do remember seeing this one. Yay, the first Jurassic movie I remember seeing in theaters was Jurassic Park 3. Go me.
Hey.
This one, I had a cousin that was like in town, and somebody we never saw. So I guess my family wanted to treat and take us all to the movies, and we went to the big theater. It was 2001. I don't remember. I don't think we had a lot of stadium seating theaters around me. So we actually traveled like a few towns over and went to this nice like stadium seating theater. And I was so hyped because, like I said, I've been a huge Jurassic Park fan at this point. Got all the toys, watched the movies hundreds of times, listened to the scores over and over, and go to see Jurassic Park 3. I'm now in. I'm like a sophomore in high school, and I guess I'm maybe too cool for school in a way. Like, it's not. I've kind of like maybe grown out of it at that point, but I remember seeing this movie and just being disappointed. Actually, even before I saw the movie, this is one that when so I don't know who it was, but somebody was on like Jay Leno or Conan or something like that, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to get to see a clip from the movie, and then they play a clip. Joe Johnston directed this thing, and they play this clip of the attack of the airplane by the Spinosaurus, and I was just like, oh no, what is this? What is this? So I was very worried and very concerned, I guess, even going into the movie. So, the movie starts and everything. And I just remember getting to, and it's pretty early on, the part where Alan goes over to Ellie's house. And it's like, oh, hey, here's Ellie Sattler. And it's like, oh, she's holding a baby. Oh, they're married, right? They have a baby. This is awesome. Pays off from the first movie. And then, oh, here comes Mark Degler, Ellie's husband. And I feel like, I don't know if anybody else in the theater, but my heart just sank completely. And I was like, wait, what? And then I felt like I was taken out of the movie from that moment forward. And it was hard to get back on the rails. And like I said, then you have moments of just like, what is Joe Johnston doing here? Why is it like this? Because you just listed all those films, and those are some of my favorite films. He could do no wrong, but here we are, and it was just a mess from start to finish. And then you have, you get out of the end of the movie, and it's just like ends. There's like no ending. It just stops, and you have this. You just like demolish the Jurassic Park theme with this military march version of it, and I did not like that. John Williams didn't return for this movie. It was Don Davis. And I honestly don't know a ton about his, scores outside of that, but I was just, I couldn't understand that choice. And it was what, 90 minutes like of a movie. It's so short compared to all the other ones. And I was just really, really disappointed. And I think at that point in time, I kind of moved on to things like Lord of the Rings and The Matrix and like cool stuff at that point in time. So yeah, things were a bit different in 2001.
Yep, I completely agree with you. Something about Jurassic Park 3, I was excited for it, but my expectations were low. And I remember, so Eric, I think you all hadn't moved down yet, right?
No, we had.
You had. Okay, but maybe we didn't really spend a lot of time together yet.
I don't think I'd actually met you.
You didn't meet each other yet. But I do remember to see this film, I went with our other mutual friend, Kevin, who was my roommate when working for Disney World at the time on the Disney College program. Kevin and I went to Universal and rode the Jurassic Park ride. And then we went back to downtown Disney later that night and saw Jurassic Park 3 in one of the stadium theaters at downtown Disney at AMC 24. And I remember we were so hyped, like we rode the ride. We spent part of our day in the Jurassic Park area of Universal. And then we went and saw Jurassic Park 3. And I remember just leaving the theater feeling crushed. Mm-hmm. A lot of what you said, Brad, was really the reason for it. I didn't understand a lot of the choices that were made. And I still, even now, I watched Jurassic Park 3 again yesterday, and I just can't figure out why the script was written the way it was, and the choices just were all backwards. They all seem backwards. The only thing that they seemed to care about and get right was that Raptors are smart.
Yeah.
But even then, the Raptors had a backseat too. It was like they made the Spinosaurus the main villain, and then some pterodons for a very short sequence. And that was really it.
Just no focus, right? It's just like, right. We'll throw all of these things at you, and maybe some of them will work. I think, honestly, the Raptor stuff is actually pretty good. Like, and maybe we can talk about that in a bit.
I'm actually completely the opposite of you guys. like I said, you make a dinosaur movie, I'm going to show up. That's the bottom line. And you mentioned that this was a cash grab, Phil. I'd have to think about that because I don't see it that way. And maybe it was that's an interesting question.
I don't know. So I'm not saying that it is.
Oh, I
It
understand.
was set out to be a cash grab. I'm saying it was made at the pace and edited down that all I can think is that they knew they were going to make their money, so they just put out a movie rather than the best movie.
Oh, for sure. Exactly. I got your point, and I never thought of it that way. And I might put a little thought into that because when I walked out, it ultimately somebody, I can't remember who, because I still hadn't read the books yet. After I saw the movie, they described to me, and I think this was actually what made me finally read the books, is I said that, they had the boat ride and the pterodons. How come they didn't have pterodons before now? They only got that little cameo at the end of Lost World. Why didn't they use these before this? And I was told that they were in the books and that boat ride was in the books. And I was like, oh, so basically Jurassic Park 3 was everything left over, not everything, but most things left over from the first two books that, hey, we didn't use this in this movie. Let's put it in this one. Let's make a movie out of these sequences. So I can see how, I won't disagree with your assessments, either of you. I just, at the time that I saw it, I was floored and I loved it. And I had ridden the Jurassic Park ride and I was excited that I was going to see the third Jurassic Park because there's a part in the ride before you see the T-Rex. When you go around the corner, there's a roar and these 3 claw marks go across this wall and the light shines on it and it's 3 and it's to make it look like the posters and the advertising for Jurassic Park 3. So as soon as I got a chill when I saw that, because I turned to Liz, I said, look, it's because the third movie and it's coming out and I'm on the ride. I was like totally freaking out because probably second to Star Wars only, Jurassic Park is the film franchise that just turns my lights on. Like I love all of it. And then I saw the movie and yeah, it's got its quirks and, it's a little weird here or there, but I never saw any major flaws that made me go, oh, this is terrible, because it's just action. It's dinosaurs. You brought up a point too, Brad, about being disappointed that Alan and Ellie weren't together. And I think a part of me thought that at the time, but then I also realized that that's what they were driving at in the first Jurassic Park, was all of his experience with the children, because they play that up a lot, that he doesn't like kids. I'm supposed to ride with you. She said I should need to ride with you. And then he has this big experience and you think, oh, look, he's changed. He realizes his, fatherly instincts have kicked in and oh, there's hope for them. I kind of liked that she shows up with a baby, which again symbolizes this is what he didn't like. This is what drove them apart. He's still just the down and dirty dinosaur guy and could not bring himself to get into a relationship where children were going to be a factor. So I kind of like that as it's character growth in the fact that he was completely exposed to children, yet chose to not go that way. So I still see that as his character growing further in his belief that he doesn't want children. So that little part played in, because I even made jokes about this before they ever did it in the movies, but that whole part where the little boy is watching Barney on TV, taking the call while Alan is being attacked by the Spinosaur, slays me to this day. And I love it. And it might be cheesy and dumb, but the same way they were putting that kind of cheeky fun into the end of Lost World, where it almost for me didn't quite fit, even though I didn't dislike it, I thought the dinosaur being on TV while Alan's being attacked by a real dinosaur, that comedy worked for me. Like, I thought that was a very, very good move. If you're going to throw any levity into the film there, that was the way to do it. So I love that scene. And yes, I love the movie. And,
Totally agree.
And yeah.
Yeah.
If it is a cash grab, take my cash because
Yeah.
you deserve it. Dinosaurs on the big screen.
Look, I totally agree with that Barney statement. I know a lot of people that despise that moment and it takes them out of it, but it's just so funny to me. The fact that it's two completely different situations and just how terrifying one is, where they're essentially being drowned by the Spinosaurus, and then here's Charlie just having a grand time watching Barney and not care. He's getting distracted, and that's what every kid does. You know, they'll get distracted
Right.
every 2 seconds. I love that moment. It's so funny.
I love too that she picks up the phone and star 69s. And that's something that people used to do. It's so funny.
Right.
Like what a past era, a bygone era at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
People would watch that today with cell phones and not know that that's what she's doing. And when I watched it yesterday, I was like, I remember doing that.
Well, now everybody wants that ringtone on their cell phones anyway. So,
yep, they sure do.
I gotta say, I do love this movie now. It is one of those things where I hesitate to say it, but I do love it. And it's honestly a pretty digestible movie these days, because with, everything going on in your life and everything right now, it's like sometimes it's hard to sit down and watch a 2-hour movie, so you just throw this on. You don't have to fully pay attention. It's nice and easy. But yeah, there's some moments that are just even still kind of bad. And one that I look at is, Alan's on the airplane, right? And he falls asleep.
I knew this was coming up. It has to.
You can't talk about this movie without it. But yeah, he gets awoken by a raptor that says Alan, and that, I'm not too bothered by that bit in and of itself, but the fact that the raptor that he sees is the Jurassic Park 3 raptor is mind-boggling to me, because unless there's been, since the Lost World, maybe there's been some documentation of the island and they know about this other kind of raptor, but that's never stated or anything. So you just have to use your own head canon, but he's never seen this raptor. So why would he visualize this during a dream? It would have really, really worked if they just grabbed an original Jurassic Park raptor and threw it in that plane instead. But, what are you going to do? I guess that, that raptor was pretty beautiful. And honestly, this movie does really, really amazing work with blending the CG and the animatronics, maybe better than any of the movies at times. It's really amazing what they do.
You're right in that point, that they do blend the CG and the animatronics beautifully.
Yeah.
One of the best sequences, in my opinion, is the Spinosaurus and T-Rex fight. I just think that's so cool with the two of them going at each other. But to go to what you're talking about with the airplane, that is anytime somebody brings up Jurassic Park 3, I then say in return, Alan. And it has made some of my friends roll their eyes at me, because that's the first thing that I go to, because it's just so absurd. And I think, Brad, I never put the words to it that you did, but I think now that you've said it, it's why I have such a problem with that scene. That's not a raptor that Alan Grant ever knew or saw.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever thought about it, but I think subconsciously I knew it.
But that raptor knew Alan because he said his name.
That's right.
Well, and the wonderful thing about that moment is it pays off beautifully. In the beginning of the movie, Alan is at Ellie's house and he's talking to Ellie's bird, which is probably a bird that they once had together. And he's like, Alan, is my name Alan? He's trying to get the bird to repeat his name. And it doesn't do it. He's like, I guess he doesn't remember me or whatever. So this whole movie is about communication. And, you have the beginning of the movie with the raptor resonating chamber that Billy makes and, terrifies Alan in a way. And then you have him talking to the bird, and you have the raptor talking to him in the plane. And then obviously it all pays off at the very end with Alan communicating with the raptors. Now, it's a little silly, but it honestly pays off in a pretty cool way.
Yeah.
I never even made that connection with him talking to the bird. I just thought it was just his fascination with anything like animals and just being, a scientist, that he just, probably thinks it's funny or cute that he's going to try and talk to a bird, which is probably why they did it. But I never tied it into, yes, the communication aspect, the overall arc. It's like, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and it goes back to the first film with him talking about, how velociraptors were birds of prey, and the kid comes in. That doesn't look very scary. So it all pays off like from that standpoint.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Phil, you said whenever the movie comes up, my brother-in-law, he'll say it completely out of context just to make me laugh. Just Ellen. And I know exactly what he's talking about, and it makes me laugh every time because it's so ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. We didn't talk about some of the unsung heroes of these past 2 sequel movies. We touched on Ellie and Grant and Malcolm and even Hammond, but we didn't talk about Vince Vaughn or about the Billy character. Vince Vaughn. He got the part in Lost World because Steven Spielberg had to go to a screening of Swingers because they wanted to use the Jaws theme in Swingers. And he had to go to a screening of it just so that he would give his approval, and saw Vince Vaughn in it and was so taken with him as an actor, he cast him in Lost World. I think that's such a cool way to get a part.
Wow.
Yeah, he's definitely like underrated. I love that character so much. He's funny, and he's honestly... he's the villain of this movie, to be honest, because like he destroys everything. He's the reason that all of this chaos happened in that movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But he's a great character and doesn't get enough recognition when people talk about characters returning. I'm like, where's Vince Vaughn? When's he coming back? Like, why is he not in Jurassic World 3?
Well, it's funny that you say he doesn't get enough recognition, because when it was on the other day or whatever it was a couple months ago, we watched it, and my wife actually goes, Vince Vaughn's in this?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, that's right. Like, you kind of forget that he's in it because, yes, he is an unsung hero, but solid character, great performance.
Yeah, I hear that a lot about Samuel L. Jackson, too. Like, on Twitter, you'll look at the hashtag and you'll see either Vince Vaughn and Samuel L. Jackson. It's like, they're in this movie? And it's like, yeah, yep, they're there. But guaranteed you see that when you look up the hashtag.
See, there's some movies that have lines that everybody says. And from Jurassic Park, there's "Hold on to your butts."
Yeah.
And everybody knows that line. And it's funny that, like you're saying, not a lot of people recognize that that's Samuel L. Jackson, but he's got one of the best lines in the movie.
Yeah. And repeated in Kong, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What's great about him, even just being in it, and if knowing he's in it, you hear his voice before you even ever see him. Yeah. He's announcing something about the last boat leaving or whatever, and I hear it every time, and I'm like, wow, at the time that's just a voice. And then even Sam Jackson is like, oh yeah, he was okay, and then just to know like what he became, pretty much right after that film.
Yeah. Still on Jurassic Park 3 for a second, but if you ever want to rile up some Jurassic Park fans, just tell them how much you love the Spinosaurus. It'll ruffle some feathers.
Oh yeah.
I love the Spinosaurus so much. And I actually never realized, because when you're a fan of these movies, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but it's almost like I felt alone in my love of these movies. Like, I had my cousin and my sister who were into them, but like outside of that, like I didn't really have any friends that like, hung out and talked about these movies or anything. So I didn't really understand the hate for the Spinosaurus and just because it kills a T-Rex, and I never understood that. And now you come to learn that like everybody hates it because of that reason and because it killed the T-Rex. Right. And I'm like, well, it's not the same T-Rex. Who cares? It's not like the same one from the first movie, and we don't have any confirmation that it's the same one from the second movie either. So it always perplexed me. I'm like, why do people hate it so much? But I love it, and I'll put up a meme or something every now and then, and everybody will roll their eyes at me, and I genuinely love this dinosaur so much, and I think it's amazing. It's so cool.
I think it's a really cool dinosaur. I think it's a great design. I think they did a really good job with it. I just wish they put it in a better movie. Yeah,
it has its moments. I don't like that initial moment with the shaky cam, and it's just filmed so poorly. Sorry, Joe. I mean, I love you, man, but like What
That
happened?
action sequence in the airplane, you're completely right. It looks so fake.
There's
Everything about it looks fake.
Yeah.
When its jaws are coming into the plane and taking the pilot, it just looks like a B movie instead of a multi-million dollar budgeted movie.
You have this incredible animatronic that is right there pulling people out of this plane and grabbing on and doing all this stuff, and it just looks so fake. Like, just how he filmed it just doesn't work. You never got that shaky cam from Spielberg, like just to kind of amp up the action. That never happened. So I don't know why it happened here, but you fast forward to like towards the end where, they're in that lagoon with the Spinosaurus attacking the boat, and the gas leaks or whatever, and they shoot up a flare, and there's just fire everywhere. There's like almost no more beautiful shot than that moment right there in any of the movies. Like it's iconic. It's awesome.
I'm there with you. I like the Spinosaurus. I don't love it, but I like it a lot. I think that it is like I said, a cool design. We don't know what these dinosaurs really look like, but they did a pretty good job bringing the Spinosaurus to life.
Well, yeah, I mean, it as far as its real life counterpoint, and that's a whole separate conversation, is like the discussion around what they should look like versus how they actually look like. And I know a lot of people are upset, and dinosaur, or paleontologists out there are just like, oh, it doesn't really do our, job any credit here because they look so wrong, and then people don't know the right dinosaurs, blah blah blah. But I think it actually invites people to learn more about these dinosaurs and learn that, hey, the Spinosaurus actually didn't look like that at all, and it wasn't something that would kill a T-Rex or anything. So, but it invites you to kind of look it up yourself and figure it out in your own way.
Yep.
Well, even the raptors, the real raptors, were not. Well, there's multiple species of raptors. And when Spielberg was looking to make his raptors, he was kind of taking liberties, and he was talking to paleontologists to figure out what he could do and what was real exactly. And he ended up kind of saying, well, I'm just going to have to take liberties here. I need a bigger, more fierce dinosaur than what an actual velociraptor was, which was smaller, about 50 pounds, covered in feathers. But in 1992, right around the time of filming, right before they're filming, it was discovered a larger breed of raptor, almost exactly like the one that Spielberg had kind of created for his movie. And it was either Jack Horner or another paleontologist on the phone with somebody, and that other paleontologist was telling Jack, or vice versa, hey, we just found one of those dinosaurs that Spielberg is making up for his movie. So it kind of just fell into place there. But yeah,
the Utah raptor.
Yeah, liberties obviously need to be taken when it comes to dinosaurs. They actually have already found out, again, how they found out, I don't know, but that T-Rex's vision would not operate in that motion sensor vision way that Alan Grant says, that they had just fine vision. So again, you got to do what you got to do to make a dinosaur movie. And I couldn't be a worker with the patience to find a mosquito with dinosaur blood in it. Like, how lucky do you have to get to find 15 different mosquitoes that all bit a different dinosaur?
Yeah.
Well, B.D. Wong was very lucky.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's still a fairly new science in a way. We're really still learning about what these things actually look like, and still discovering brand new things till this day. So we don't really know. And even a few years before Jurassic Park, T-Rex walked with its tail on the ground, and now the T-Rex that everybody knows and loves is like the one from the movie, and the Brachiosaurus is the one that everybody loves. So I think it does pretty great work as far as dinosaurs are concerned, even if they're not fully accurate.
Yeah. I'm just picturing the scientists who are going through the mosquitoes, and they're like, okay, we're hoping for another dinosaur. Oh, great. Another giraffe.
Yeah.
Put him with the others. You wouldn't
mammoth.
You wouldn't know what you got until you hatched it.
Yeah.
So Eric, why don't you tell us about how 1, 2, and then 3 ruined your childhood?
They absolutely did not ruin them. They they were definitely on the tail end of my childhood and even into adulthood. The last couple, but my goodness, like I said at the beginning, this franchise is second only to Star Wars in as far as my awe of the films themselves, seeing them in the theater, and the true movie-going experience. I don't think you can get any better than the first Jurassic Park on the big screen. They're incredible movies. They've got definitely their weird problems, but I guess if you just buy into the fact that scientists were finding mosquitoes with different types of dinosaur blood in them, if you can buy that, I think you can pretty much buy everything else in the rest of the film. So I love these movies.
Brad, I bet you'll have a pretty similar sentiment.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, these movies changed me in a big way, and even though I didn't care for Jurassic Park 3 at the time, I had other stuff to watch and to concern myself with back then. But I surrounded myself with everything Jurassic Park in the 90s, toys. I still have, I don't know, maybe 80% of my toys from when I was a kid. And my collection now is just out of control. And I created my own Jurassic Park fan club back in the day, which consisted of myself and my cousin and my sister, and that was it. And I have a business card, and I still have it right here. It's super old, but it changed me, and I love these movies, and I wish the third one did it for me. But again, like I said, I was in high school, and I was probably just being too cool for dinosaur movies at that point. One thing that bugged me about it also was, like I said, I collected all these toys and I loved these toys. But when Jurassic Park 3 came around, it really bummed me that, and this is super like dorky, but like the toys, the scale of the human characters and the dinosaurs was not the same scale of the previous iterations. So I was like, oh, I don't want to collect these ones because they're not the same size. They don't fit with my other ones. I can't, play with them or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, that bugged me as well. So that ruined my childhood because I'm like, I can't collect toys the same way that I used to. So I actually didn't even collect any until, a few years ago when I started getting back into everything. So yeah, but definitely didn't ruin my childhood overall. And I think honestly, in adulthood, I've found so many ways to love Jurassic Park 3 and interesting ways to tie it to the entire franchise that kind of make it this rock to lean on when you're talking about Jurassic World series and all that stuff. So it's kind of interesting to talk about that, and I'm sure maybe we'll get to it some other time. But yeah, I love it all.
Yeah. Well, I'm right there with both of you. This Jurassic Park kicked off my teenage years. I turned 12 seeing Jurassic Park, and my love of dinosaurs and Spielberg films hit a fever pitch from Jurassic Park on. I know that I've said some negative things about the Lost World Jurassic Park, and definitely have some problems with Jurassic Park 3, but they're all like pizza, right? Jurassic Park is the best pizza you've ever had. The Lost World Jurassic Park is, that pizza that you get when you don't want to go to the really good gourmet place. And then Jurassic Park 3 is that freezer pizza that it's DiGiorno, it's not delivery, it's DiGiorno, and it's still good because it's pizza, but it's just not as good as the really good place you can get pizza from. So if my analogy makes any sense, I still love all of the Jurassic Park films.
I love that so much because you can store a bunch of those pizzas in your freezer, and then time comes,
right.
you heat them up real quick, real easy. It's Jurassic Park 3. It's like I was saying, it's digestible.
Exactly.
You throw it on, it's short, it's easy. You don't have to do a lot of prep to get that thing on.
That's right. And the other good part about it is that I've seen them all so much that if I'm throwing on Jurassic Park 3 just for the comfort of a dinosaur movie, I don't have to pay full attention like you said before.
Yeah.
You can do other things, but it's still on in the background and you still know what you're getting.
Yeah.
And so it didn't ruin my childhood. Jurassic Park 3 definitely gave it a run for its money, but it did not ruin my childhood. So I have nothing but great things to say about the franchise, and we'll continue to say good things about the franchise moving forward in another episode.
Look, I think we forgot a very, very glaring moment. I just want to bring up real quick.
I was just about to say a moment that we didn't talk about, so you go first, and then I'll throw mine in.
I wanna get your guys' take on gymnastics. What are your thoughts on gymnastics?
Oh. Is that because I tweeted that at you yesterday?
No, it's a hot take for everybody out there. So I want to know, like, what does that ruin things for you for that movie?
It doesn't ruin it, but it is completely absurd. And someone tweeted back at the I tweeted at you, and then somebody tweeted back and said that always takes them out of the movie because the raptor looks at her like, what is she doing? And it's kind of true, but it doesn't ruin it for me. I think that it's a fun and unique way to make the Kelly character more than one-dimensional, because she's very one-dimensional through most of the film. And the fact that they give her a moment to shine and be strong and be more than just the girl that is there by mistake, I actually appreciate.
Well, it's a classic movie thing. I don't know what the right word is, where early on in the movie, somebody says, "Oh, you quit the gymnastics team." And then later on, you do gymnastics. And it's like just to set that up for an action sequence or something. Like Jurassic Park is guilty of it when he goes, "Oh, you're a computer nerd. I prefer hacker." Oh, somebody's going to use a computer later. I wonder who it's going to be. And I hate when movies do that, where they're foreshadowing, I guess is what it is. It's poor foreshadowing, where you have to have another character say something about another character. It's just so unorganic that way. If we would have seen her walk into, in the first Jurassic Park, he walks into some display center and immediately starts playing with it and goes, "Look, Grandpa, da 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 da." And he's like, "How are you able to do that?" And then she's like, "Look, it's easy." And then you're like, "Oh, well, okay, she knows how to use that system." And then later on, when she breaks into the other system, then you're like, "Oh, well, that they set that up well." But when another character has to say that, and especially the gymnastics, because how do you work in some scene of gymnastics early in the film that you can bring it back later in the film? I think, and just to make my final point on it, but it diverges, Lethal Weapon 2 is one of the most blatant examples of that, where Mel Gibson is in a straitjacket at the beginning of the movie in the police station, and the bet is, can he get out of the straitjacket? And he throws his shoulder out of place and does it, and all the cops are like, "Oh man," and they lose their money. And then sure enough, the bad guys put him in a straitjacket at the end of the movie and throw him in the river. And then while he's under there, you see him struggle, and then he goes, and you see his shoulder go, and then he takes the straitjacket off, gets out, and kills the bad guy. So it's like, at least they didn't say early on, like, "Hey, you know how you got that trick shoulder and you can get out of straitjackets." But it still is such a poor way to foreshadow.
Yeah, I guess you could say. I mean, I kind of like the way that they foreshadow it, because it's like it's treating it kind of dismissively and showing you that also, like, Ian doesn't really pay attention to the conversation at hand, and he's like, "Dad, they cut me from the team," and he's just like, it just kind of like shows you how their relationship is pretty poor on one hand, but also that, maybe she's not very good at gymnastics. I don't know. But then you see, she's good at gymnastics. I love it. I think it's so much fun. Right. And honestly, she gets the first dino kill, and that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and all of my talking that I just did is ultimately to say, though, I still love the sequence, and I don't hold that movie guilty of anything for that sequence. I only hold the movie guilty for the poor, in my opinion, poor foreshadowing on it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I was going to say that we didn't even talk about Dennis Nedry.
Ooh, yeah. Honestly, we kind of skipped over the first movie in a way.
Yeah, we always do that. Eric and I always do that when we do these. Is we skip through the first one so quick to get to the ones that people say ruined their childhoods, and we forget big parts about the first one.
Everybody knows the first one's good. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. So Dennis Nedry, just an iconic character. Brad, did I see correctly that you were able to get the Nedry toy from Mattel?
Yeah,
from Comic-Con?
Yeah, it was an exclusive for San Diego Comic-Con, and since obviously there was no in-person thing, they did them all online, and they sold out really, really quick. So I was able to grab one, and they honestly still have not sent them out. Today, I actually got a confirmation that they're going to be shipping out, but Mattel sent me one like way in advance, and I got to review it and take a look at it. It's awesome. Comes in its own like Barbasol can. It has like sound effects. It actually does like a few of the lines from Nedry. Includes this like awesome like little backdrop. He comes with like his own little Barbasol can and a little piece of cherry pie with whipped cream or shaving cream on top of it. So
shaving cream.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I love that thing.
That's great. I watched somebody do an unboxing video of it the other day, and I just can't believe how cool it is.
Yeah.
But Dennis Nedry is one of those characters that just will go down in the annals of history as a great movie villain. He's in it for himself. He has a lot of his own problems that we don't really explore, but it's a throwaway line by John Hammond. Your financial problems are your own, and we see his motivation, and we fall in love with how bad he is, only to be taken out by that awesome sequence with the Dilophosaur.
And see, to go back to the foreshadowing, that is where I think they did a really good job in foreshadowing. It's just an example of good foreshadowing when he's meeting with Dotson and he says, pay the check, don't get cheap on me. That was Hammond's mistake. So that's a character talking about his own finances. So it's only reinforced later when John Hammond says, your financial problems are yours. I don't expect people to be perfect or whatever, but they're mistakes. I just expect that they own up to them or whatever. So I like that sets that up well without being a, blatant, we got to point out that he's got problems. But no, Nedry's awesome. And one of my most quotable is whenever I'm out somewhere, and I do have a tendency to get loud and excitable when I'm telling stories. Somebody will shush me and I will go, Dotson, we got Dotson here. See, nobody cares. Most people don't get it. And I don't care. It's mostly for me, but I just love how he's like, you shouldn't shout my name like that.
Yeah.
Dotson.
You bring up an interesting point that nobody gets it, and that kind of concerns me because that character is now going to be in the third Jurassic World movie. So I wish people would kind of understand it and remember that moment a lot more. But I'm interested to see how it pays off.
He was a main character in The Lost World.
Yeah,
and they completely cut him out of the movie. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with it.
Yeah, me too.
So I think on this note, everybody, we're going to take our leave from the Jurassic Park franchise and promise that we'll be back sometime in the future to talk Jurassic World. So, Brad, why don't you take a second and tell everybody where they can find you outside of this podcast?
I do host the Jurassic Park podcast, so come listen to us. You can find us at JurassicParkPodcast.com. You can find us on all the podcasting platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on Spotify as well. We do have well over 200 episodes and tons more bonus episodes. And we have a lot of content on YouTube as well. We do, like you mentioned, Dennis Nedry. We do unboxings for a lot of the toys and get sent stuff from Mattel. And we do a lot of our other coverage and stuff on there as well. So go find us on YouTube, but follow us on Twitter at Jurassic Park Pod, and myself, I guess, at Brad Jost. That's it. That's about it. You can find us all over the place.
Great. Thank you. Eric?
You can find me on my other podcast, Everything, Anything, and Nothing Really. You can find that on iTunes, on YouTube, on Podbean, wherever fine podcasts are sold.
And for me, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Fildimo, Fildimo. And I've also been on episodes of podcasts in the Real Fans Podcast Network, Real Fans for Real Movies, Disorder, every Disney film in order, Holy Batcast, the All Batman podcast, and Brad's other podcast, Grinning Hosts. So thank you all for joining us on this look back of Jurassic Park. And we hope it didn't ruin your childhood.
Could it be I've misunderstood? This podcast ruined my childhood.
Alan, this species of Variformin's been extinct since the Cretaceous period. I mean, this thing isn't one of this thing. What?
is a dinosaur.
You did it. You crazy son of a bitch, you did it.
You just tear up the rule book on it. Cold-bloodedness, it doesn't apply. They're totally wrong. This is a warm-bodied creature.
This thing doesn't live in a swamp.
This thing's got, what, a 25, 27-foot neck? Brachiosaurus 30.
We're gonna make a fortune with this place.
How fast are they? Well, we clocked the T-Rex to 32 miles an hour.
T-Rex?
Mm-hmm.
You said you've got a T-Rex?
Uh-huh.
Say again. We have a T-Rex. Wow.
Put your head between your knees.
Dr. Grant. My dear Dr. Sattler. Welcome to Jurassic Park.
I'm sorry, Phil. My audio cut out. Are we getting pizza?
Yeah. I'm getting pizza delivered to both your houses.
Awesome.